Hi everyone. Today I have another very special piece. This is the Dimitri Sinkevich Pike flipper. Let me open it out. It comes with this beautiful custom case with his embroidery on it. It ships with a spec sheet. The Pike flipper, one of three. And you can pause the video if you want to read the specs, but I'll go through it anyways in the video. So this knife was shown in Blade Show 2024, and it won the best tactical flipper of the show, which is extremely impressive. And let me open it up real quick. This is a beautiful piece. So as the specs showed, the blade is the K110 core steel. Beautiful Sanmai hand rubbed blade. You can see the top part has a beautiful hand rub finish. Dimitri always puts a semi stonewash on the hand rub. That's why you can kind of see the different lines on it. Extremely cool. It's both, beautiful. It shows its artistry and it hides scratches a little bit better. So that's always a plus. Although, with Sanmai blades like these, the black parts are very easy to scratch. So you gotta be aware if you get one of these blades. I think they look extremely cool, but if you plan to use it, these black parts will get scratches quite easily. Next part is the frame. The frame is a very beautiful, let me see, it's the Techno Carbo inlay. I haven't heard of Techno Carbo before, so that's why I was blanking a little bit. But I think for me, the beauty is in the intricate milling on the frame. As you can see, there are many, it's not like just a flat piece, A lot of makers, when you do inlays, or for me in this case, it's more like an overlay rather than an inlay. It's usually just flat, but here it's contoured and carved on both sides. And there are many different layers to it, depending on which part of the milling you're focused on. Around the pivot, it's a little rounder. Along the frame, it runs along the line. And it provides a really nice grip to it because if polish, carbon fiber can be quite slippery. So it's not ideal if you want to carry it or even handle it. It's more comfortable when something is not super slippery. If you notice here, there's a red carbo quartz inlay onto the frame, and that's because if you notice on both sides there are no screws except for the pivot and for this bit. So this is to hold the inlays in, essentially. So I think it's a really nice aesthetic touch. I haven't seen anyone really do this type of aesthetic before, and I guess it's just a nice touch. Next is the pivot. The pivot is beautifully contoured. Again, as you can see, there are many different levels to it, and jimped as well. I don't really get to touch this part much, as it is the pivot, but it has a lovely texture. But what I really love about this knife, even though it might seem a bit small in the pictures, for some it might seem big, but the ergonomics is incredible. If you notice, this style of handle is the fighter style grip, and usually this is very subjective in terms of, not subjective, but it varies a lot in comfort between different people with different hand sizes. Because if you have hands which are bigger than mine, then it will be very uncomfortable because your hand would be, pinching this edge. So, with these types of knives, with the fighter grips, it would be ideal if you get to try it first, if you are lucky enough to have the chance. I didn't have the chance to try it first, but I was lucky that it fit my hand perfectly. And that's because I'm kind of attuned to the sizings of knives, and I can kind of tell if a handle length is this long, it should fit my hand fine. And in this case, it perfectly does. And these fighter style grips, they look really cool, but they also lock your hand in very well when you're, cutting and pulling. This grip prevents your hand from sliding around, and I think that's just it's perfect for that. Let's see. Next is the pocket clip. Dimitri always does very nice pocket clips. This one slides in and out of the pocket very easily, and it has an area where it is loomed, so at night it does shine, and a little area for the finger to grab onto when you pull it out. I think it's a very, very lovely additional touch, and it's really expertly milled, beautiful shape, nice and simple. The backspacer is zirconium, again with the number 1 that is also loomed, so it will glow in the dark, and expertly done. One of the things I really like about this knife is that the blade is perfectly centered, and if you notice, the core of the blade itself, the black bits, is also perfectly centered. So this is not very easy to do. A lot of makers skip over this type of detail because it is hard, and a lot of layers, Damascus layers, they aren't straight like this. So you have to pick a piece that has the right core, and when you grind the blade down, you have to ensure that the core is still pretty much centered, and Dimitri has done that brilliantly. So if you can see, it's pretty much in the middle all the way through. As much as it can be. And because the blade is hidden in this backspacer, you can't, it won't, there's no way for you to poke your own thumb against the blade because it is well hidden under the backspacer. Another really nice touch, again, a sign of a designer who has been working on knives for, over a decade, and I think this one is no exception in terms of, how beautifully and expertly well thought out it is. The frame, although it might seem like a liner lock in the beginning, to me it's a frame lock. You can see they're two full fat frames with the carbon, techno carbo overlays, with a very generous amount of space, and jimping that is not sharp at all, is very comfortable. A place to release the blade, just beautiful. The action, as you can hear, it has a double click to it, and true to Sinkevich's actions, his multi-roll bearing system has very small balls, and there's a lot of it inside, more than the usual MRBS systems, which means it drops quite freely. I know some of you may like that, some of you don't. Personal preferences, I think, but truth of the matter is it opens and closes really consistently, really well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, this quick overview of the Pike Flipper number 1. It's an extremely special piece, and really, really glad to add it to my collection. Thanks.